Team Mulima, there we go. Matt, you're awesome.
Well, Matt's not here, but thank you.
Or Ashton. Is it
No.
Ashton here? Dang it.
The boss man.
Boss man. Okay. Well, so in short, Team Mulima sitting 3-0, Team Mayville sitting 0-3. So I talked with Team Mayville's coach a little bit, and they haven't been that far off the mark. There's just been an end here or a couple of shots there that have really determined the position they're sitting at right now at 0-3. So I think it will be an interesting dynamic to see how this game shapes up, considering there's massive implications for Team Mulima, and I think Team Mayville is just really looking to have a solid 8-end performance here.
Yeah, and I think they're really going to go hard at getting that first win of the season.
Yes. No, and I think we've all seen or heard of or seen situations like this before, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Absolutely.
So I think we saw Liam on his first rock there. He jiggled around those yellow rocks.
Change the angles.
Yeah, and I think changing those angles isn't a bad thing for them.
Absolutely.
Especially because they have hammer, and that stagger could have been potentially dangerous. So now I think we're seeing Mulima. Was it a top 4 shot, or
I believe they're trying to draw around the blue center guard that you see up front there.
Yes, and we've seen this side just warp in there. It doesn't.
It's starting to go there.
Yeah, I think it might be a little bit of the weight holding it straight in that spot.
I
looks
agree.
good.
And a great plan B by Kibo there to get the rub off their original stone in the house and get buried behind that blue center guard.
Yeah, and I think I really do like this hit, and I love that inside out handle that Ryan is calling Liam to throw. That handle's gonna get Oh, pardon me. I thought he put the line for the double, but it looks like he put the line out for hitting that rock. But honestly,
great shot.
It's a great shot.
I thought that was more buried than it obviously it was.
Yeah, no, but if you look at where it rolled to, it's kind of at one of those spots where it's tricky to get to because you don't want to clip your yellow, but you need to make contact.
Absolutely.
So
and if you're Team Mulima, your main goal here is to hit granite, and obviously next goal is to stick around. So that's what you're gonna see. Jack's first stone. Try to do.
So
they're praying.
Yeah.
Kibo's pushing the wind over to try to make that rock curl, and it worked for him.
Trying to create that extra air current, Sam, to really get those rocks exploding off of each other. Fortunately, it wasn't enough to keep the shooter around, but
goal 1 was to hit granite, like we said.
Exactly, and I think if you look back at that shot, that's the tolerance. If you're Kibo, you're thinking we got rid of it, we're sitting 2, that's good. And it seems like Mayville is kind of taking the initiative in this end. I think it's the first time we've seen a draw shot thrown on this side of the ice so far, Sam, right?
Yeah, and Chris might have even told him that, I like the draw here. I threw this in practice. I know what this path is going to do. We know that it's going to curl. We know it can slow down around that center line.
Yep. The weight call right now is a little heavy.
Yeah.
But I think it should slow down a smidge.
Especially around that center line, you'd think it would. It's trying. And hit the brakes, just not fast enough. It does stick around. But Team Mulima is now sitting 2 and throwing.
Yeah.
So I think the main goal here, if you're Team Mulima on this shot, is it doesn't have to be buried top 4. That's obviously the call.
Yeah.
But if you leave this top 12, top 8, half buried, you're taking that shot away from Team Mayville.
Yeah, and if we're gonna be nitpicky,
absolutely,
I think you don't want this shot to be fully buried, because if you fully bury this rock, you might see a Team Mayville freeze, and then all of a sudden now they're almost double guarded, one from behind, one in front.
Yeah.
But it looked like that rock by Jack slipped behind the tee line, so it's giving a bit of an opportunity here to Chris. And one thing that bodes well for them here is Chris did just throw this shot.
Absolutely.
So he now has a bit of backing to freeze it, and I like to see that active sweeping, switching back and forth, trying to manipulate the stone to where they'd like it to be.
Looks like a great sweeping effort.
It really is.
By Mateo here, and a great shot by Team Mayville.
No, I think that rock is fully buried. And we'll see what Kibo's thinking right now. What do you like here, Sam?
I think if you're confident in your draw weight, I'd love to play the freeze, or I guess he can play a back line.
Yeah, I think
it does curl there. That just seems like a lot more difficult of the two. If you decide to play the draw and you finish top 8 right on the curling rock of Junior Slam logo,
yeah,
you're kind of it's a little bit easier of a shot.
Yeah.
And you're really tightening that scoring area down for Mayville, because it is only the first end.
No, exactly. I think one thing, just gonna wait to confirm, and my suspicions were correct. We have a lefty alert.
Oh yes.
Right now. So because of where Kibo is in the hat,
he makes me bite my tongue. Yeah.
Yes, I think he can see a little bit more of this rock than your traditional right-hand thrower.
Yes.
So that might play a bit of a role into why he chose this shot. If he feels comfortable with it, then I don't see any reason against it. But the degree of difficulty is still higher than just a draw or a freeze.
Yeah. And I don't know if these teams have been watching the live streams. And when Kibo walked into the club, he told me how to pronounce his last name and Mulima. And I may have missed that a couple of times in draws a little bit ago. Interestingly enough, though that was a miss and an over curl, he also made the shot that we were talking about. He made a double tap where now he's cutting down that scoring area for Team Mayville.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting call here to see Team Mayville throw the guard. I don't think there's ever anything wrong with taking a single point, and I think there are a lot of yellow rocks in there, but I think they also can't lose sight of the fact that there's a back Yellowstone rock in the 8-foot there, that if you try to run that yellow onto that blue, you might see a jam, which could potentially give you a shot at 2. So I don't hate the guard here. I think another shot call could be that hit and roll off of that left-hand side rock, or even just a straight draw to sit 2.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. I would have, just for a learning aspect for future games, I definitely would have maybe thrown this draw to just full 8-foot, maybe biting 4-foot.
Yeah.
And that is a precise shot, especially in the first end, so I like the save call on the guard as well.
Because when you're throwing the guard here, yes, you're protecting the point you have right now, but you're also opening the door for Kibo to either draw the other side, which we know swings more, or make some sort of hit and roll. It looks like they're calling the draw. I like that shot, and I think...
For Ryan, that was called and made, though. You know, the guard is the safe call.
It is.
And he's happy with scoring 1, but he will have a shot for 2, depending where this Mulima's draw stops. This Kibo's draw stops.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, just if we're rooting for the viewers at home, rooting for Mulima, I think the rock placement on this stone is critical. I think you need to see where the other rocks are positioned in the house, specifically that one on the top left-hand corner as we're looking at it, and know that wherever you put this rock, you need to make sure there's not a natural double. So it'll be interesting to see as this rock comes down where it ends up. but it is that lefty's in turn. It might move a little bit more, Sam.
And you see that Griffin is head down sweeping, trying to get this by that guard.
Yes, he's putting everything he has into that stone.
Looks like they're just going to rub.
So interesting.
It does cut the draw off a little bit. So now for Ryan, he needs to decide, do I want to play this board weight hit and roll to center, or do I want to just draw the 4-foot?
Yeah, well, talking to his coach just a little bit before the game, he told me that he tend to see the draw game, the finesse game, maybe a little bit clearer than the hit game, but I really do like this call. I like the hit and roll. You know it's going to move here. You just need to make sure that you're to the broom with a good positive release and a heavy board, maybe a controlled weight hit here would do the trick.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to whoever's throwing it, it's preference.
Yeah.
Obviously the draw is there, and he did get hammer, so his draw to the button.
Yeah.
Obviously,
something was
was
working.
Good. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm interested that he decided to play the hit, but I think that's just what he's comfortable with. And another lefty alert.
Double lefty alert on sheet 2. Oh my goodness.
Skips are lefties.
So this should move a little bit more for him as well.
A big sweep here to try to hold it.
Huge sweep by Liam here. What
really close.
Ooh. What a great shot.
A great shot for 2 in the first end.
It's almost like out of nowhere in a sense. Like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It seemed like it was shaping up really well for Team Mulima. And then it speaks to that make versus miss we've been talking about. I think we got a bit of a half shot, and then Team Mayville came out with a full shot, and then it just put the pressure on Team Mulima, and
it was Chris's draw around those center guards that really started that deuce off.
No, you're right on the mark there, Sam, and it's good to see that back end, seeing that we might be in a little bit of trouble. Raise that intensity, increase that shot making ability, and then the skipper closes it out with a deuce.
Yeah, great shot. And for Team Mulima, you're gonna shake off the first end. You know, they started with hammer, they got their deuce.
Yep.
You give them a little head nod, and you focus on throwing your corner guard here.
Yeah, and if I'm Team Mulima right now, I'm thinking about past games I've played. And it seems like every time I look over on their sheet of ice, they have about 14 rocks in play. So considering that maybe that game style is what they prefer, that means that there's going to be more opportunity for bigger ends, but also a higher, more risk involved in their play game, in their playing style, pardon me.
And it's nice to see that they're comfortable with that.
Yeah.
They're comfortable with their soft game, they're comfortable with their run backs and being aggressive. And we've seen nothing but aggression this weekend. For the most part.
Yes, that's an understatement.
It's good to see that you're comfortable doing that, especially in the most likely your first event of the year.
No, exactly, Sam. I think an interesting matchup here will be both skips throwing those rocks from the left hack. I know it sounds weird and whatever, but I feel like there's been so many left-handed curlers at this event. I remember in my days of U18, U20, it wasn't as... It was a rare occurrence to play a lefty. And then especially I remember as a skip playing a lefty as I'm a right-handed thrower, and I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, I have to really see both parts of the game from both hacks, and these two have the same viewpoint, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for them.
It is for sure interesting. I know that as a skip, I never had a left-handed thrower on my team until when I went to Brock 2 years ago now, and this is the first time I've skipped a lefty, and it's definitely an adjustment.
You're putting it nicely.
They throw it differently than righties. Yeah, and just like lefties think, wow, it's adjustment to call righties because they throw it differently than they do, right? So it definitely swings both ways, and interesting enough that Team Mayville wanted that center guard and just slid in on that curl side a little bit, maybe some fresh pebble.
Yeah, I think if I'm Team Mayville, if they've studied a little bit of Mulima's game, I'm thinking bringing the play into the house and kind of simplifying the game might benefit them.
And I think Team Mulima is noticing that with that upper weight, how much straighter this side is.
Yeah, it does run, and it's not necessarily a bad throw. It's just that's what the ice conditions do. So you have to make that adjustment for that. What do you think about this center line guard here, Sam?
It's aggressive. Up two, it's a little aggressive, but I think that Team Mayville has a game plan.
Yeah.
And coach said, throw those center guards. Or skipper said, let's be aggressive, and that's what they're doing. And I like that they're going out with their game plan and doing exactly that.
Yeah. Looks like we're on a little bit of a wider path here, but oh my goodness, it's still taking a huge right turn. A great sweeping.
Called and made.
Yeah, great sweeping by Liam. I think that's Liam.
That's Chris.
It is Liam.
Oh, that was
Chris.
See? I was right, and the coach was wrong.
Oh my goodness.
First time this weekend. So they called the center. It was called a main, and now you're going to see Team Mulima. You're going to see Jacob make this hit and stick as his goal.
Sam, I had to point out there. Look where he put the broom. Center of the rock.
Yep.
I think
he adapted already after one rock.
Yeah, no, that's a very quick adaptation, and I think that looked like they brought the weight down a little.
They did. It looked like they were through normal on their first stone, and they brought down the control there, and it's much more easy for a team to control your sweepers with that weight. You'd be able to really bring your sweepers into play.
Yeah, I think so. Ryan called for the hit and roll under that really well put center guard. And I don't mind this strategy. I really like this call, and I think Ryan's trying to attack that control zone.
And as we've seen
really
on
close.
This side, it really warped in, and a great hit and roll.
Wow.
And another call for Team Mayville that was shot and made.
No, I know. And if I'm
called and made.
Yeah, and if I'm Team Mayville right now, I don't care about the record we have. I'm looking at the game we're playing now and say, look, like the competition has such parity at this tournament, and it's on display right now.
Yeah.
And I think Team Mayville is really gonna bring it to Team Mulima, and I'm really looking forward to see what that gives us.
For Team Mayville, it seemed like their game plan was to bring the play to the center, and with those two made shots, that's exactly what's happening. For Team Mulima, Jacob really wants to focus on putting this rock top 4 foot. If you miss full 12, top 8, even if it's wide open, that's better than putting it like back flat.
Yeah.
So this does look like it's running, and a good communication by the team by saying, okay, let's keep it wide open and let's try to bring it behind the tee, so when Team Mayville does hit and roll, they'll be behind the tee. So that's a good communicating by that team.
Yeah, Sam. Oh, I was gonna say I'm not surprised if he makes you eat your words, but at the same time, I do like the hit here. I think the hit.
Look at the scoreboard.
Yeah, you're winning by multiple, and I think managing that house. And house management, just as much as scoreboard management, is vital in this U18 age group.
All age groups.
Yes, in all age groups. But I think here is
learning. This is where
here
you start
is where
to
it's
learn.
yeah, exactly. Here's where you start to learn. And look at that, just curl in there.
Another great shot.
I don't know if the Blue Rocks have a magnet to the center line, but they've got them all in a line, so they're doing something right.
Yeah. If I'm Team Mulima, we always talk about once you're one shot in danger.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're seeing by Kibo. He's saying, let's make the run back. If we don't make the run back, make the peel and make my life throwing last stone a little easier.
Yeah, and I really like this mature call by Team Mulima here. Even if you just clear the front, you're opening it up for the skipper and giving your team a chance to kind of rejig the angles of this end. It's looking really close.
Yeah, if I'm Jack, I like that skipper's calling this, and a little unlucky that we jammed on our own yellow, but our yellow did say stay second shot, so that's important.
Yeah, so interesting call here, Sam.
I like it.
You like the straight draw? You wouldn't ever consider that in-turn for the right-handed thrower? Got to keep that in mind, that in-turn tap on the Blue Rock in the 12th?
I like that where my blue rock is right now. It's in the control zone.
Yeah.
I want to keep it there for now.
Okay.
And maybe on my skip stones make that tap. I think we got to, if I'm Team Mayville, I want to beat Team Mulima to the top 4 foot.
Okay. Yeah,
and for Chris, that's his goal right now.
Looks like out of Chris's hand, he signaled it was a little solid for the weight.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'll see some sort of audible.
And that's exactly what you just saw Liam point. They said, let's go off our shot rock.
Yeah.
Because this is too heavy.
Yeah,
so
it looked like it was
back just too heavy and knocks it back where blue is sitting 1.
Yeah.
So
Kibo just checking out to make sure that it's just 1 blue, but I'm signaling to a team that, yep, for second shot, I like the hit and roll, but you can't roll that far. Yeah, because
you'll jam. And I think, yep, there we go. And he's realizing that I think there's 2 shots here. You can be aggressive and beat Team Mayville to the top 4, because that's where they want to go.
Yes, yep.
Or make the nose hit and make Team Mayville make the hit and roll under.
Sam, I'll be honest, just glancing over at Team Mulima's game so far, I'm kind of surprised they're calling the hit here. I know that it's a good shot, it's a good call, but I think if they make it as well as they're calling it, I think you're just going to see Team Mayville draw top 4.
Well, they call it made, so we're about to find out.
Yeah.
I think you'll see the hit and roll.
The hit? Okay. Yeah, I was more so thinking like if they rolled behind, like, because their initial call was behind the center.
Yeah, and then they realized if they did roll behind, they would have been behind T, and they know that's dangerous. So, mature call for Team Mulima to keep the nose hit.
And if you're Mayville here, are you thinking another nose hit, or do you like the roll under?
I think if you're Mayville, you try to play the roll under. Yes, you're probably jamming. But you could make the double perfectly, and you're sitting 2 of them behind a center guard.
Very true.
So I think you're going for the roll here, but like we've said multiple times this weekend, you have to make sure we get rid of at least 1 yellow here.
Yeah, and I think the scoreboard screams that right now.
Absolutely. So,
but another lefties in turn. I'm sorry, I've only ever curled with right-handed curlers, so whenever I see that, I just think out turn. But that's not the case.
It's curling here a little bit.
It's close.
It's going to be right on the beak. Oh, they're going to lose their back blue one. But that's it rolling a little bit out.
Yeah.
Makes it a very tough hit for Team Mulima. They're going to have to play a hack weight hit and roll under, or they have to hit and roll kind of to the outside where they can just get away with not jamming.
Yeah, and I think just to kind of backpedal a little to a couple shots ago, Sam, I see it now where keeping that blue top 12 rock for Team Mayville is critical, because potentially you could see Team Mulima make a hit and roll under the guard, and now that blue rock comes into play. So I guess I'll give you a tally point for that shot. 2 for 2, Sam versus Ryan, correct calls. But there's still more games to come, so I'm sure I'll be able to beat Sam, but we'll get there.
We'll see who the real curling master is.
Oh.
So for Team Mulima, for Kibo, it's really important to decide and talk about what the tolerance is here. They're going to say, this is the shot we want to make, and it looks like with the broom placement, they want to hit and roll under. But they really need to know what the tolerance is, because you don't want to see a jam.
Yeah, with that ice, Sam, I'm almost thinking that
it could be a draw for all we know.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say it's the hit, and then when they throw the hit, I'll claim another point on the tally marker.
Okay.
I have a feeling...
I can't read your mind, though, so it doesn't really count.
I think we're seeing the hit here. I think the interesting part, though, is with that broom placement, I have a feeling they might be throwing a little bit of solid weight. So they might actually be banking on the jam, but worried more about where their shooter rolls to.
Yeah, and I think that's what you have to worry about the most. It almost automatically jams.
Yes.
Right? So you just got to focus on where the shooter's going to roll.
Yeah, saw a board weight call there by the sweepers. Great communication.
It looks like they got to sweep this.
Wow. Out of nowhere.
Griffin is head down sweeping.
Yeah.
And that's a good sweep to make contact with that blue stone.
Yeah,
And now, you know what? Team Mayville has to hit and stick, or we're going to see a blank end.
Yeah, I think right now for Team Mayville, I feel both teams have been executing really well. I think making sure you get contact with this one is key, because although you can see about 3/4 of that blue rock, that yellow's in the line of sight. And sometimes you wonder for the line of sight, especially considering, one sec, where is the left hack? That is what I'm looking at.
He's standing in it.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. But I'm just thinking that blank attempt for Kibo is going to be an out turn for them, right?
Yeah, you're correct. So they're going to see less of the stone than a righty would.
Yes.
I see where you're going with that.
Yes.
But for Team Mayville, for Ryan, goal number 1, let's make sure this rock exits the rain zone.
Yeah.
Big sweep here.
A stick would
by
be great.
Mateo to get rid of this stone, and that's a great shot. And I think you're going to see Kibo play the nose hit, or no, it looks like Vice wants him to draw.
Well, I think this shot really comes down to skip preference, Sam.
And I think that's what you're seeing here.
Yeah.
I think he just kind of threw this path with a hit. You'll probably see a nice board weight, and he's giving himself a little bit more ice. Throw the same weight and just hit it on the nose.
Yeah, and I think I would have preferred to see Kibo kind of say, Jack, I like this. And then Jack fully commit to what Kibo has, what he's thinking. But
and Kibo did make a decisive decision to play the hit, which I like.
Yes.
I just think you, as you're saying, confidence is very important when you're a skip, and as we said in previous broadcasts, of putting the broom down, being assertive, and knowing that this is what I want to make. And he seems confident in the shot, and he just threw a board weight hit and kind of in a similar line. So goal number 1, hit the stone, because obviously you don't want to give up a steal, but if you do, giving up a steal at 1 is better than giving up a steal at 2. So if it's me throwing this stone, I'm throwing the hit too.
Yeah, and it just really just comes down to skipper's preference here.
Absolutely. I like the weight they chose. It's similar to what they threw, and it looks like it's moving a little bit. And
the sweepers are just
that's a great shot.
Yeah, it's a great shot.
For Team Mulima, you don't love that you get forced, but you kind of have to tip your hat to Team Mayville for making 8 stones.
No, exactly, Sam.
And you got your 1, and let's put the center guard up next end.
No, and I think that's a great point, Sam. I think sometimes you see, I'm getting forced. And that mentality kind of carries through with the shot that is being attempted by the team being forced, and maybe there's a miss, or maybe there's a half shot. So kind of dissociating the fact you're getting forced is key, and just saying, you know what, let's take our point, and we'll move on, and there's much more game to play, much more points to be had.
Absolutely. So it looks like the guard is being called by Kibo for Griffin, and yes, that is what is being called. And Jacob is sweeping, and as we've said, every single broadcast, great sweepers on both sides of the women and men's, all 8 teams. We've seen a lot of great sweeping.
Yeah, you can really see Jacob is really getting his legs kicked out there, head over the broom handle, have that 1/3, 2/3 grip. It's great form. And I think we're seeing Mayville's aggressive nature right now.
I think that's absolutely the call, too.
Yeah.
I like that. You know, they're only up 1. They could easily be putting up a corner guard. But I like that they're just trying to put this top 4, and Mateo's just wants to put this top 4. And you don't, it looks light, so it's a big sweep by Liam here. But you know what? We've been talking about that control zone all weekend, and that one, if it does get in that's a great sweep. And it does bite the rings.
Wow.
It's a great sweep. But it's in that control zone that we just talked about, right?
Yeah. I think Mateo might owe Chris something after this game. Right out of his hand all the way down
Liam.
the sheet. Was Liam?
Who swept that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, you'll learn eventually.
Yeah. That's the hope. But no, the fact that it got in Like,
Yes.
it just speaks to the quality of sweeping.
Yeah, head down the whole way. I wouldn't want to be doing that.
Yeah, I'm okay sitting up here watching them do that.
Yeah, it's great to see at this age. And for Griffin, his goal is the same as Mateo, and kind of use that blue one as a center guard.
Yeah.
And put this top four buried. And we've talked about Team Mulima's aggressiveness.
Yes.
And we haven't got to commentate over them, but we've seen a lot of Broxton play in their games that they've played. And another big sweep just getting by.
Yeah, the great sweep
by
Jake
Jacob
here. But I'm. Yeah.
I love that rock positioning too. We talk about the control zone. That Mayville's like, you know what, I'm going to control this control zone, and Team Mulima right back is like, nope. Yeah, I'm going to put a top 8 buried.
So Sam, this is a really interesting position that Team Mayville finds themselves in. They have one biting top 12, and there's a really long guard, as well as a Yellowstone top 8 foot in that control zone we're talking about. What shots do you see? I think they're gonna attempt, a top 4 draw. What do you see here?
I see 3 shots. I see the 2 draws to the back 4 foot on both sides.
Either turn, and we're not gonna say which because we have lefties.
Yeah. And I like the corner freeze on the yellow one that they just threw. The corner freeze is a lot more precise.
Yes.
It's just you see Chris sweeping here. Really hard to get it by that high guard, and they just do, and looks like they're going to tap their blue one into shot stone, and that's
sweep.
Great team shot. And as we talked about, that's why that control zone is so important.
Yeah.
Yes, they didn't make the shot that was called, but they tapped that stone that is in the control zone to shot stone. Yeah, yes, it's open, but great shot. And Team Mulima's going to try and nose, maybe get a hair roll inside. It looks like they called control 8.
Yeah. Sam, I just want to get your opinion. So,
Sure.
Obviously we can't bring the Rocks back to where they were, but in that situation, would you ever consider ticking that top yellow guard to open things up?
It's definitely
it's
a
tough shot.
It's a shot you see in men's curling a lot.
Yes.
And it will be adapted into junior and U18 curling, not only this year, but in future years, because that's how it starts, right? And my team would have probably called the corner freeze.
The corner freeze? Okay.
Yeah, but there's definitely teams that I've seen would have called the tick. Yeah, so it's definitely team preference, as long as everyone's on the same page. A tick is a really vital shot to have in your front end, because especially with hammer, you create those 2 corners that you want in one shot.
True.
And you see a lot of teams adapt that, and Team Holman kind of brought that into play when they came in on tour way back when.
Well, I think the team that brought it into play first was actually Jeff Stoughton's team with Steve Gould.
Oh, well, that's a little bit before my time. I don't know
my
how
God,
you
Sam,
know that.
You're older than me, Sam. I'm worried for you if you can't remember that.
I try to keep up on
the current
strats,
the current literature in curling.
So I like that Team Mayville. They have hammer, and they're trying to limit how many stones the skipper is going to be looking at. I think they tried to hit and roll in, but they got the hit and stick, and so you're going to see Kibo
hit that
wide one and try to roll deep.
Do you like that hit? Because I'm looking at the position of that Yellowstone, and it is double guarded.
I'm pretty shocked that they're playing the hit, to be honest, because the shot stone is double guarded, as you said. It could be more of like a confidence thing, like he rather play the hit and roll.
Yeah, true. Yeah, and it could be a thrower preference.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I see this setup, I'm thinking a out-turn draw. I guess it would be on the counterclockwise rotation on the sheet one side. You'd get that finish. You could probably get to the tee line there. Real nice, but let's see if he can make us look silly.
This looks like a sit. A great shot.
Yeah, it's a good shot there.
And for Team Mayville, you have a couple decisions.
Yeah.
You can play the peel. It's not too late to bail. It is a very high center, so
And that's where I'm thinking
that's where you're
that
thinking,
the
yeah, I
tick
get it.
could have brought the play in.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's something that you just learn.
Yeah, you need to practice that
yeah,
shot. It's
yeah.
not something you just whip out in a competitive competition to try.
And for Liam, this is a big shot for Team Mayville because they decided to call a draw. And another big sweep here.
And this rock is Chris sweeping. I can confirm.
Yes, it is. You're getting it right this time.
I'm honored. Little chop.
Little chap. If they can get the
finish it?
frozen, and that
Breathe in.
works.
That's
perfectly.
it's a nice shot.
It wasn't the call, but it's one of those, if this happens, that's good for us, right?
Yeah, well, I think, Sam, they did enough right with the shot. They chose the side that tends to move a little more, threw the weight to the sweepers, and sometimes if you do enough things right, a good thing happens.
Absolutely. And for Team Mulima, really focusing on the nose hit here, because you're not going to blast it out with the way that people do. So focus on making the nose, being shot stone above that blue stone. Yeah, and a very good call. And as you can see, we've seen a lot Griffin head down sweeping.
Yeah, and Sam, I think
they proved me wrong.
No, they did. And Sam, I think we missed it. Jack as well is a lefty.
Oh, there you go.
So we have 3 lefties. They're taking over the world one game at a time. No, but when you think about it, he can see more of that rock, which makes it more accessible.
And that's probably more of the reason why he proved me wrong. I like the peel call. I think this, for me, might be one shot too late.
I was thinking the exact same thing, Sam. I think you open this up one shot earlier, and you get another rock before your skipper's last to kind of rearrange that house look to make it a little bit more favorable. But better
also,
late than never, right?
Yes, better late than never. So for Chris, this is a big shot. And Mateo head down sweeping like we've seen.
Great shot there. And
Chris following the stone all the way down.
Yeah. And also there's just a single peel is sometimes one of the most underrated shots in curling because it really changes the outlook of the house.
Yeah.
And it's also, you want to throw that little bit extra rotation, that little bit extra weight to make sure you get the movement to clear both the shooter and the stationary stone. So I think, are we seeing a zone 1-2 call here for the guard?
Yeah. No.
No? I think so.
I think they wanted that.
Yeah.
Looks like it's running a little deeper than they wanted.
And they're trying to sweep it to make sure it doesn't set up an angle.
And to be fair for Jack, I'm pretty sure that's the first draw I've seen him throw.
You might be right, Sam.
So a little bit deeper than they wanted, giving Chris kind of an opportunity to make this double run.
Yeah, this explosion shot.
Yeah, and even if you don't get rid of more than 2 yellow stones, like even if you only get rid of 1, cleaning up that center is the absolute most important part for Chris here. And it looks like Chris can throw some heat.
Yeah, I saw the skipper tap his head for peel, so I'm just going to get a time on this. I'm just curious to see what their peel is. If you're Team Mayville, you're taking that. That 7.5 second hit hog to hog was quite a heater.
Yeah. And it gives your skipper 2 draws to the forefoot, right? And that's the most important part, especially when you're up 1. Team Mulima was set up great in that top 4-foot, top 8-foot, and a big shot by Chris to open it up for Ryan. And for Kibo, his goal here, obviously, to put this top 4 right back where the yellow was and keep the aggression going, being down 1. So I like the communication of Team Mulima. Kibo's sitting in the hack. He's asking what draw weight is. He just threw 2 hits in the first end. And he's just, in the third end, in the second end. And so he's like, what's the time here? How many more feet do I need than my draw to the button for hammer? So that's exactly what he asked.
So he's throwing the top 4 draw here?
Yeah, yeah.
So do you like this side over the other side? Because I'm just looking at the other side of the ice, and there's nothing on that side.
Yeah, I think more of a preference thing, because both draws are open.
Well, is that side as open as the other
yeah,
though?
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That port is big enough where both sides are open. Interestingly enough, maybe that was their draw for hammer side too. So maybe people thought that it's similar. So for Mayville, this isn't an easy hit, and I'm surprised they're looking at it, especially in the lefty hack. It's you see even less of it. So I like that they just decided, let's play the draw.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to keep in mind here is that this draw doesn't have to be perfect. If you leave it just biting top 4, maybe good full 8 foot, half exposed, Team Mulima is they're gonna be in a bit of a pickle, because depending on where Team Mulima tries to strike that stone, it could potentially jam on that side yellow one, which is preventing a blue right now from being put on the board.
Absolutely. I like that. Again, we just talked about Team Mulima's communication. You're seeing Team Mayville's communication. Ryan's talking to his sweepers, Liam and Mateo, and asking, you know, what time do I need here? This is my first draw in a little bit. How many more feet do I need? And looks like Mateo's staying close.
Leave it high, hold. And fighting. Not out to solid. I actually like that, right?
So Ryan coming just short of being shot stone. And I think I like that he's using the same turn for this draw.
Yeah, I think considering you threw your first draw there, you kind of in a way committed to using that piece of the ice, which is fine.
Ryan doesn't like it.
Okay. If we're being honest, if I was Team Mulima on my first rock, I would have tried to take the less cluttered half of the ice, because
and Mayville listened to you and their rock under curled. And Ryan is stumped. So we're gonna focus on this next shot. And Kibo's his goal here is to go top 4. He knows that, yeah, I was 10 feet light the first time, so let's make it closer for this one. And that's what he's telling his sweepers. And a good rotation, and it looked like a good release on this side, so this should be close. And it looks like Jacob is sweeping.
Yeah.
Staying close is usually a good sign.
Yeah, you always like to see that as a thrower.
And switching to the curly side, I think that extra bit of rotation on this one compared to his last one, and it's really warping in there like we've seen. A great weight. And
is there a double there, Sam?
It looks close.
Especially considering it's coming from the lefty hack, you're gonna see more of it.
You have to hit it absolutely perfect for it not to jam too, though. So, as a team being up 1, you have to decide risk reward. It doesn't look like there's a hole, so there isn't a huge amount of risk to it. Like,
yeah.
As long as you get granite.
Yes, I think through the hole is
you're
mission 1.
You're not going to give up a steal. Through the port there is definitely mission 1.
And then mission risk. 2 is both. So,
yeah. And also, depending on what weight he decides to throw, these rocks could spin up too.
Very true.
Depending on what weight. It looks like where the broom is, he's only throwing
like a
normal, maybe?
Yeah, normal-ish.
Yeah, so we can definitely get a time on it for the parents wondering what hit weight their teams are throwing. But just for learning purposes too, when Team Mayville and Team Mulima rewatches this game, especially if, who knows if this is the last event, depending on what our current situation in the world is. So this might be a game that you watch repeatedly until you get to throw rocks again. So big shot here for Ryan. Big sweep for Liam.
Really big sweep here.
Gotta get through the port.
Gotta get through the port. I see a 10-5 here.
And that works.
Yeah, 10-5 there. I don't mind the weight,
I
really
like the
giving
weight
it to the
choice.
sweepers.
Yep. I think it just curled a little more than they expected. But he gets his one, and that's exactly what he wanted. So a 3-1 lead for Team Mayville. And you're going to see Team Mulima try to put that corner guard up and try to get their deuce to tie the game. So Team Mayville will be throwing this first stone. You'll be seeing Mateo get settled in the hack. And if I'm Team Mayville with a 2-point lead, I'm probably calling for top 4, but the aggressiveness that they like, they very well could throw a center guard.
Well, apparently I shouldn't even say what I think because I'll be wrong anyways, according to Mr. Sam Steep. So I don't.
Salty.
Well, the way I see it is that Team Mayville had a shot for 3 points there, and they threw it.
You're right.
They threw it correctly and missed the right way to get the single point.
You're absolutely right.
But this very well could be a 5-1 game right now. Yeah.
You're right.
Anyways, to get back to this end, I think I agree with you, Sam. I like to put it in the house, but as long as you have that as a tight guard, I think it's okay.
Yeah, and that's what you're going to see. A little bit of an over curl, but it is a tight guard like they called. And so there's nothing wrong with a more aggressive nature. And it is only a 2-point game with a 5-rock rule. That's not a big lead at all. So they're going to be focused on, for Team Mulima, they're going to be focused on tying the game. And for Team Mayville, they're going to be focused on forcing like they did the first time.
Yeah, and I think, interestingly enough, I think this is the first game where we're nearing the halfway point and we haven't seen more than a 2. And I think it speaks to the quality of play both teams and their levels that they're at right now. And at the end of the day, if this game is just a game of ones, 1 or 2 twos could make the difference here. So nice shot there from the lead Team Mulima. You're going to see Team Mayville follow it down, try to remove it out of play. Looks like the skipper's signaling for a hack weight. And it looks like they clipped the guard there, which, they're rolling that blue stone in. You love to see that house management we've been talking about. Yes, they didn't get the called shot, but they were able to roll that shot into the rings, which could end up on the scoreboard or could be a rock that's used for Team Mayville to establish a force. It looks like Team Mulima is calling for a guard to guard their shot rock that's in the 4-foot right now.
And I like that call. You know, you're down to, it isn't quite a corner guard, but if this does overcurl and create a corner guard, that's just as good too.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, Sam. And I think if you're Team Mulima right now, I have this feeling that this game isn't going to be. You know what? I'm not going to say it because I don't want to jinx it.
Good job.
I have this feeling.
We're learning.
Yes, we are learning just like all the athletes are.
That's a great guard. Well played by Griffin.
Yeah, it's a great guard, and I like what you said. It's even if the guard wasn't fully burying or fully in front of that back stone, it's still helping them. It's still helping generate that offense that Kibo and team are looking for right now.
Yeah, and I think both of these teams have watched some of the live stream games, because both of these teams adapted to that side that curls about 2 feet more very quickly.
That is true, Sam. I actually didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, it seems like they've adapted, and this just looks like it's running hot. I like the ice that Ryan gave him, and I think it's just a little heavier than they wanted.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a really good observation, Sam. I think these teams are taking into consideration that there's this knowledge out there for them to maybe not watch a full game, but just how is the sheet running? Is it similar to games we played on other sheets? And how can we kind of have that competitive edge over our opponents? And it's always good to see in all of these teams. I loved that positive release by Clark right there. That was
Jacob Clark.
Sorry, I referred to him as his last name. I apologize.
But also a big shot. We say that, everyone's like, oh, skips have big shots.
Yeah.
But a big shot here by Jacob, because he can really put the pressure on Team Mayville. And a good audible to get it back to the back forefoot.
I think that's a better placement than potentially
a pocket.
Pocket, chipping that yellow over. So that's a really good heads-up play there by Team Mulima.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's just a shout-out to these teams for the communication skills that they have already at their younger age.
Yeah, it puts me to shame. I can say that for sure.
And for Mateo, head down sweeping, like we've seen him do multiple times already this game.
Do you think this sweep
big
is
shot
for weight or for line, Sam?
I think it's a little bit of both. It looks like the way it's curling, they just get it by that guard, and
Great
the weight was good. Yellow is still, Team Mulima is still sitting 2.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think your rock just over curled, because if you picture that blue stone a foot towards the center line, a rock and a half towards the center line, you're going to be shot rock corner frozen, and that's exactly what they wanted. So, perfect weight, great sweep, and just over curled by about a foot. So for Team Mulima, we've talked about playing with fire, and they have hammer, and they're playing around the center guard, which we've seen in past broadcasts that help a lot of teams playing with fire. Yes, you're playing aggressive, which we've also said Team Mulima is, but it works.
No,
right?
No, it does, Sam, and I think it speaks to the comfort level these athletes have with the ice as well as with their strategy.
Especially, this is the 4th draw, so yes, they haven't played on sheet 2 yet, but they know the speed of the draw times.
Yeah.
A little unfortunate that ran a little bit deeper than they wanted, kind of creating that pocket. So I like that Team Mayville isn't even though they do have a 2-point lead, they're not looking at the hit, because they know that if they make this freeze, it's going to take Team Mulima at least 2 shots to get their blue stone out of there.
No, that's a good observation, Sam. I think the draw in that pocket, if I'm Team Mayville, there's a lot of things that can go right with this stone placement. You can freeze the back, you can freeze that side yellow, you can technically be a little heavy and potentially hit and chop off of that center one onto the one of the yellows in the back corner of the forefoot. There's a lot that can go right with this shot.
Yeah, and the sweepers are backing away from this. Because tolerance is heavy, especially you do have a 2-point lead. You do not want to be late when your opponent's sitting 3.
Yeah, I think it's coming down though, Sam.
And just a little bit heavier than they wanted, but again, look at the tolerance they had. Like we said before, Team Mulima is going to take them at least 2 shots to get that blue one out of the rings, or at least out of the forefoot. So I like that. I think the shot, though difficult, Team Mulima should be following them down and kind of tapping that blue one right on the button.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so Mulima has hammer here, and you're seeing I'm kind of seeing the scoring area shrink. You're liking following it down, or is there another shot there?
You could definitely play the peel.
Yeah, that's kind of the one that kind of came to mind for me.
Because, you know, being down 2, and you're like, why am I peeling a guard? But if you play the peel, the angles are a little bit better.
Yeah, they're favorable for you.
Yeah, and create some separation here. It looks like my money is on nobody. I don't know.
Sam and I don't have enough money to place a bet right now.
It looks like yellow, and that's what Ryan is tapping as well.
Yeah.
So, though the shot that was called wasn't made, the tolerance of being heavy and creating that space, you're now shot rock.
Yeah.
So, mission accomplished for Team Mulima there.
Yeah, and I think another positive out of that shot thrown by Jacob was that, pardon me, it wasn't Jacob, it was Jack.
The Jays.
The Jays. Is that shooter rolled far enough that they've kind of, that pocket, there's a hole, you can punch a stone through that. So I think that's another thing going for them, but look at this, just walk over there.
As soon as Mateo got off, it just dove.
Yeah.
And if yellow wasn't shot before, I think that little nudge really kind of put them in the shot now. So
yeah.
Interesting enough, now they're looking at the peel / the run back.
No, they are looking at that.
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it, but
the draw is so precise. That's why I kind of like this. I think, again, what we saw with Team Mayville, this is one shot later than we would have wanted.
I'm just thinking though, Sam, like right now, Team Mulima is shot. And I'm just worried that potentially by opening it up, you could leave something for Team Mayville or make...
Okay.
Well, there's definitely no pocket now, sir.
No.
But... that really curled on
for Team Mulima, they're still shot rock buried, right?
Yes.
Team Mayville has to either give it a little tap to sit at least 2, or corner freeze.
What do you see, Sam? What would you
I like the corner freeze, and if you end up tapping it where you're sitting 2, that's great.
Yeah, I agree. I think the shot here is that right-handers in-turn freeze, or clockwise rotation, and just play the freeze, but know that if you're a little heavy, it will finish, and you can kind of kick it over there, because you only have to move it. We're talking an inch or 2, really. So.
I like this call. Even if you end up top 8, though you're not shot, again, we're talking about that control zone. You're controlling the front. And even if you end top 8 here, it's going to be hard for Team Mulima to get a second stone in there.
Yeah, and I think as well, if you're Team Mulima if you're Team Mayville right now, I think a force is just as good as a seal.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about at the beginning and the end. Team Mayville is perfectly fine with forcing.
Yeah. So knowing that your tolerance here is lighter, so that you can use that later and maybe promote it.
And Mateo back to work.
Yeah, that's basically it, Sam.
Yeah. It's just, I think Ryan really hurt us. And he said, you know what, I am not missing heavy here. And I like that tolerance. Yes, it overcurled. Maybe if you were top 8 of touching the center line, it would be in a little bit better of a spot.
Do you think?
But for Team Mulima, it's kind of hard to hide anywhere.
What do you think the play is here for Team Mulima? Do you like that?
I think you need to do a setup shot. So kind of like what we talked about with Team Mayville. If Team Mulima puts this full 8-foot just crossing that center line where Team Mayville can't make a double, but you're kind of setting up to where you'll have that short tap or that draw to the button for 2.
Oh, and I think we're going to see
because I don't think you want to touch those angles that are set up right now.
I think we're seeing the lead from Team Mulima. Griffin, he came down and maybe to give his 2 cents on a potential shot call or maybe an angle.
And I like that. I like bringing at least one, if not the whole team, into this conversation. And a timeout called by Team Kibo. And I like that the players are deciding.
I want
to talk to my coach.
I was just going to make that comment, Sam. That's the first time on our featured sheet where we've seen the team call the timeout without being urgently suggested
Yes.
by their coaching staff.
And that might be a team decision that they've made before, that, you know what, I want to, as a skip, I'm going to call the timeouts because I want to talk to my coach on a shot that I'm not sure of.
No, exactly. And I think there's actually more of a trend in that in youth sport. I follow tennis a little heavily. I know those eyes are welcomed and warranted. But Bianca Andreescu said the same thing with her coach. She is the first Canadian teenager to win a Grand Slam tennis event, and that's something that she set up with her coach. She said, look, I know you're there to support me, but I want to make the call for when I get to see you. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. And I think it almost promotes active problem solving for these players, which is nothing but beneficial at this young age. But to bring this conversation back into the curling universe, and don't give me that, Sam. What do you see? What do you see here?
I think the coach is going to kind of say similar to what we said. Maybe you could put this just by the top button, setting second stone, kind of corner frozen to your yellow. You have to be very careful not to rub off and create a double for Team Mayville to then all of a sudden you're looking at 4 in the forefoot. You really need how close this game is, you really do need to protect your 1 point.
True.
But also, I kind of want to treat this as a setup shot, so it'll be interesting to see what they decided. For Team Mayville, if I'm Team Mayville's coach, you can't say much because you're not going to know what you're going to be looking at on your last stone. But if you can hit.
Yes.
Because you are up 2.
No. We got the check mark of approval by the coach of Team Mayville. So somebody likes us in this building. It's good to know.
We didn't see Jack tap anywhere on the ice yet, so we're not sure exactly where the stone is. It's definitely a draw. And it looks like it's running on them a little bit.
Maybe they took your advice, Sam, trying to go. I don't think initially
I don't think they wanted to go back 8.
I think that's the audible.
Yeah, I think their goal was to go top 4 foot.
I think,
top and exactly kind of what we were saying.
Yeah.
That kind of a setup shot. The double's there, but it's risky for Team Mayville. If you ever hit a tooth into your blues and spin, not to create a curse for me, but a little bit more risk. I kind of like, if I'm Team Mayville, I like just nosing this Yellowstone, kind of giving them the draw to the pin.
Yeah,
I take 3 right out of play.
Yeah, I like that, the cautious approach that you kind of just laid out online, Sam. I think
it's a confidence call though too.
No, it is. I was gonna say, I think it really comes down to if the skipper thinks he has the shot.
Yeah.
And I think right now, if he feels in his gut, if he feels in his intuition that, no, what, this is my shot, I'm going to throw it, then I would say, whatever you think, skipper. Because if you think about, the risk is there, but if you think about the reward, they could be sitting multiple under a guard. So it's, I don't know, it's one of those, whatever the player thinks is best is what they throw.
Before Kibo's stone stopped in the top 8 and kind of that spot exactly where we wanted it to be.
Yeah.
We said that Team Mayville, if they have a hit, they should hit.
Yes.
So I like them looking at the hit. I do. And it looks like the team is discussing on what to do. The skip instantly called the hit. And as a skip myself, if my gut and that's my instant call, it's usually what I want to throw right away. That's what
this is a rare occurrence. A back-to-back timeout call by both teams no suggestion needed by the coaching team.
Yeah.
If
I'm Team Mayville, and if I'm Ryan,
yeah, I'm Ryan. No.
If I'm Team Mayville, and if I'm Ryan, and I instantly called the hit, and then decided, and then my team started talking me out of it, maybe.
Yeah.
We're not sure what they're saying, but I would want to throw the hit because that was my intuition. That's what I wanted to throw.
No, I completely agree with you, Sam. I think it's just one of those nuances where what is the skipper thinking and feeling, and if they like that shot, I would throw it, and I wouldn't overthink it. I would go down to the other end, put the broom down, reassure the weight that's going to be thrown, and just throw it pure.
Absolutely.
So
there's also, you could throw the guard. Kind of guard that top yellow one, kind of guard the draw path a little bit too, and make Team Kibo literally draw the pin, or make a really delicate tap to the pin. So you could make their shot for two harder and just concede at least 1 point. Or if you want to be aggressive, and if you make this double, you're sitting at least 3 buried.
Yeah.
And Kibo's got to draw the pin. So it's interesting to see as a team what they decide.
Yeah,
the more aggressive route or a more safe call.
As a spectator, I want to see the double called and made.
Yeah.
If I were to be a coach, proverbially, for Team Mayville, I think the nose hitter, the guard.
Yeah.
But if the skipper sees the shot, it means it's there, and it means he's open to making it.
And he's lining it up again.
And it would be for 4. Well,
but it's not last stone.
Yeah, it's not last stone, but 4 buried if this shot is made. And I think Ryan kind of understands that there's opportunity with this shot, and this could blow the game wide open potentially.
For me, there really isn't a lot of risk unless you hit it very, very thin.
Yeah. You shouldn't have said that.
No, but I really don't think there is a lot of risk because even if you hit half a rock, if the weight that I expect him throwing, which is probably around an 8-second hit.
Okay, I'll get the clock going for you.
I really think the rocks will spin no matter where you hit this stone. So this should be a fun one.
Mine's close.
I like the tolerance that they threw. They didn't whip the stone.
No, I got a 10-second hit here.
Oh.
I'm okay with that outcome, Sam.
Yeah, because you know what? We talked about playing the guard or the nose, making Kibo draw the button.
Yeah.
That does the exact same thing.
No, it does. And if anything...
No backing either, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't mind the fact that they didn't try to whip that shot. I think maybe just a smidge more ice, that is the turn that tends to swing a little more. But overall, if you're Team Mayville, you haven't done much wrong this end.
Nope.
So it's really up to Kibo and either Jacob or Griffin, depending on whoever's taking this stone, sweeping it. Like, this is a big second point.
Yeah, it looks like Jacob is sweeping. He is on that straighter side. But like you just said, if your team Mulima, you wanted a draw for 2.
Oh, 100%.
That's what you're getting, right?
Yeah.
So made or missed, you got that opportunity for the deuce, and confidence-wise, that's huge. And it looks like Jacob's trying to make this curl to the edge of the button and go for weight at the same time. It's maybe one of the first under curls we've had on that side.
I know. It's that I liked the throw.
Weight.
And I liked the throw by Kibo. It's almost, that's like the black sheep.
Yeah, well, that goes to show, Rob Matheson said that, and he likes that his ice is very release sensitive, and the fact that he had that extra rotation there kind of kept that rock a little straighter, even on that side that tends to swoop in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, and I think, that's the first undercurl we've seen, and this is draw 4 of the men's play.
Yeah.
So it's, it's interesting to see that happen, but again, 1 point difference. Mulima, especially considering how easily accessible it is to get these big scores. They're not far from out of it.
Yeah. As we've said in the previous draw, you can't win the game in the first 4 ends, but you can lose the game in the first 4 ends. And both teams are recognizing that, and that's why you have a 1-point game there. We've seen some aggression, but we have not seen over-aggression. And a big sweep here by Jacob to get it over the hog line for Griffin, and he does do that.
Just quickly before we see a little bit too much development in our sheet, we'll just give you some sheet-by-sheet updates. Sheet 1 sees Team Stratton with a 4-1 lead over Team Dobson playing the 5th end. Team Dobson has hammer. Sheet 4, we see Team Hastings with a lead of 3-1 playing the 5th end. Pardon me, 3-1 for Murray against Hastings. Hastings, both teams are playing the 5th end. Hastings has hammer. And then on our sheet number 5, we have Team Jones leading Team Stockton 4-1, playing the 4th end. Team Stockton, or pardon me, Team Jones has hammer. So it looks like we're going to have a little bit of an aggressive start to this 5th end here. We have all 3 rocks in play, and Chris is really going hard.
All 4 rocks in play.
Pardon me. Well, it didn't stop yet, but yeah, now we have all 4 rocks in play, and they're all guards.
Yeah, we've seen this a couple of times this weekend, especially playing that side that curls about 1.5 foot more than the other side. We've seen kind of that great wall in front of the rings before. We've seen all 32 stones in play, or all 16 stones in play.
We are not mathematicians,
but that's all right.
Glass.
I'm sure the teams would love 32 stones in play, but that we would have to combine 2 sheets.
Yeah, that could be a lot of work mathematically, so
a lot of angles.
That would be an understatement.
My head, as a skip, that would suck.
You might need the protractor.
Back to real curling. It's only 16 stones on the sheet, 8 each team. If you didn't know that, I apparently didn't.
The more you know. Learning every day on the Junior Slam series.
We now have all 5 stones in play, and we're kind of creating that great wall of China in front of the house. So it's interesting to see which team is going to kind of bail first.
Yeah, I think the bail point is something that is kind of one of the cornerstone things that are learned in this specifically this age group, but also in that U20, U21 age group as well. Because knowing when you're 1 or 2 stones in trouble, and knowing when it's time to move those rocks around to give your skipper a last shot or save the end is really important.
And for Team Mulima, Kibo is happy with 6 guards out front. Maybe not thrilled if Team Mayville gets a really nice one in there, but they want to get in there top 4 foot, buried behind these 6 stones, and get the steal, right? That's exactly what they're looking for. I know it's the fifth end. They're only down 1, but really try to shrink that scoring area for Team Mayville. And if I'm Team Mayville,
Sam,
I'm
sorry, but I have to cut you off here.
Yeah.
Kibo, this is the first time we've seen somebody take ice up the sideline. I'm sorry to cut you off, Sam, but
No, it's not okay.
it does move that much, though. It does move that much.
Yeah. And it's really good to see that he's adapted that. And you've seen on arena ice and television that I've seen Team Gushu almost at the hog line.
Yes.
Holding the broom, right? And a great sweep by Griffin. And never giving up on that and burying it as we talked about in that top 4. And
yeah,
if I'm Team Mayville, I'm running up to those guards and trying to get at least 1 or 2 of them gone.
Yeah, and I think right now for Team Mayville, the saving grace is that last zone advantage they carried into this end, knowing that it's never too late to bail, and it's better late than never. I wouldn't mind seeing a rearranging of those guards, even the ones on the center. I think the ones on the center are actually hurting you the most. You could move those guards that are blocking that yellow stone, but I
think you can't go wrong with just peeling any of the 6 stones.
Yeah, I think.
But I think you want to focus on what we see on the screen right now, that right side that he is calling. So now the left side that you see on the ice.
So this is a big peel here for Liam. Trying to open it up, give his team an opportunity to access the rings. Looks like it's a little bit solid in terms of weight.
And a great shot.
I don't mind that, Sam.
I like it a lot. Yes, there's that yellow one is still buried, and you didn't eliminate any of the 6 guards, but you changed the angles of those 6 guards.
And if you look about it too, if I could draw that box at the front of the house, all 3 of those stones are Team Mayville. And those are promotable stones, those are usable stones, and yes, right now, Team Mulima is...
That's an aggressive draw that Kibo is calling here, kind of through that very tight port on the side that we've seen. It does finish with the right amount of weight, with the perfect T-line weight. We do see a curl.
Do you see any other call besides this one, Sam? Or do you like this call?
I like the aggressiveness of this call. I would have liked a guard.
Yeah, on one of those
blue rocks, and I think that's kind of what we're getting here. Oh, I'm just tapping it a little bit too far.
Yeah.
I would have liked guarding the right side there, because we don't need to steal more than 1.
Yeah.
And even a force is good. So let's we're not in trouble. Let's put up another guard. And yes, Team Mayville has to make a really nice run, but if made, they're going to be buried behind those 6 guards that we talked about.
Oh, I think they're out. They were signaling back line or bumper. I think they've decided board, which I don't mind for a wait. I think the good thing here is that if Team Mayville can run that back and stick it on the nose, they can then use the shooter and maybe split it into the rings later in the end, or use it as another tap-up stone.
I like that they're just deciding to throw a lighter weight, especially when you're running in your own rock. I think that's really important to think about, especially at this age group. You see them like to throw the high hard ones and just over curled on them, but it does open up that yellow stone.
And they have a path in.
Yeah, so Team Kibo kind of has to make a decision here. Do they play a split, which that was my first intentions. That's kind of my first call when I think about it, but it's hard because it curls so much on the one side. It's going to be hard to make that split. So do you go the straighter side?
Yeah, I don't mind this call, especially keeping in mind that in the hack, you have a lefty throwing an intern, so you're going to get a little bit more movement just in terms of curl. I don't mind this call, Sam. We've seen Team Mulima use this curl side quite often, so I have a feeling they're comfortable with the ice here. a little bit of an unlucky outcome there. I think just maybe the weight was good for the split. It just didn't come up in terms of line.
Yeah, I agree. Big shot for Team Mayville to make a hit and roll under those corner guards. Chris has been coming up big for Team Mayville here, and he's made a couple really nice draws, and now Ryan is asking him to make a hit and roll here. I think for Chris, you can't overthink about navigating the port. You can't overthink the jam. So let's just make sure we make the nose hit. And this one looks like a little more weight than Ryan called. But we get through the hole.
Yeah.
We don't stick around, but mission accomplished, as I was talking about.
Yeah, and I think Mulima has to be a little bit cautious here. That center line rock that belongs to Team Mayville, fully exposed, and it might not be used on the first rock by Ryan and team, but if Keeble can't get some sort of position secured, there could be a split for a multiple.
A question for you.
Okay.
How tempting is it to play the freeze onto that back blue one?
So, okay, I'll give you my thinking. So, the way I see this right now is that the freeze is, you have three shots if you're Mulima. You have the draw around the center, you have your freeze to the corner, or you have your yellow run back onto the blue. I like the draws over the hit just because the degree of difficulty for both draws is less than the run back. So that would then leave us just the two draws. And if I'm Team Kibo, we have been throwing this clockwise draw to try to bring the play to the middle, use those guards to our advantage. And I think, Sam, I prefer the draw to the middle. I guess throwing the draw to the wing isn't necessarily wrong because there's backing there, but I like the idea of putting the pressure on Team Mayville and forcing the skipper to make a couple of really nice shots.
So do I. And I think that for Team Mulima, you know this path better, and this looks like a great shot by Kibo.
A great team shot, a great throw, and a great sweep at the end of that.
Obviously, they probably would have liked a little bit more separation from that run back, but it's still a run back. 4 or 5 years ago, run backs were hard to make, and still hard to make now, but these teams practice run backs now, and they practice these big weight shots. And I don't think he's going to be overthrowing this. I'm going to say that Ryan is going to throw that 10-5 weight that he's been throwing all game, and try to make this nose run back.
So, Sam, I'm going to ask a question of you.
Sure.
As a team, you're looking at the scoreboard, you're up a point, you're sitting second shot. That guard's in the way. Do you like the run back, or do you ever dare play a split on that rock to try to sit 2, 3, 4 and really force Team Mulima to guard it up very well, or put a rock in another position where there's no double there? What do you think?
The split never crossed my mind until you brought it up.
Oh, wow.
Solely because, that is your nature.
Oh, thanks. It is. It is.
And, making this peel, and now that yellow one is exposed, unlucky that, looks like the blue stuck around. Yep, the blue is still biting. So, lucky enough that stuck around, and now Team Mulima has to make a really good guard, or play the tap. And that's kind of their aggressive nature.
You like the tap here?
Yeah, you just threw it. The double and keeping your shooter is tough. I think it's a team decision for sure, though. The guard is the safe call, but we also know the guards on the side that curls a little more isn't easy either. And for Kibo, he just threw this draw. That's why I think if you play the tap and roll under, it's kind of like a split almost.
Yeah. And
you're kind of Christmas treeing those guards, which only showing half the rock of both stones. I think if you're going to throw a perfect stone, I think that's what you would want to throw.
I think the other thing to keep in mind though, Sam, is, and I like to see that placement, is when you use the word perfect, I think you're right. That placement of that other stone that you would be putting in the house, it would have to be very accurate.
Yes.
And Team Kivo coming into this, and I have a feeling that their thinking was, let's either give one or let's take one. And I think right now they're in a position to take one. And I'm just worried that maybe by bringing the play into the house for them, they might set up an opportunity for Team Mayville to take two and bring that biter into play. So, I think they settled on the guard here, and I like that call.
I think they did. It is definitely
It's the safer option.
the safer option, and they're realizing that, you know, our yellow is in a really good spot, and if we make a really good guard, Team Mayville's going to have to navigate a tight port to the forefoot for their one.
Griffin is all over this rock to bring it as far as he can, get it over that hog line. Good call by the vice there, over and off. That's the best you could do with that stone. And it is.
That grabbed the curl a little quicker than.
Yeah, and that's the best you could do with the rock. And it is guarding half of that stone, I believe. It is a little bit of a higher guard though. So this could be one of those
Big shots of the game.
It's one of those shots, Sam, where in a game of ones, even just 1-2 that we saw Mayville have in the first, just twos are so vital right now.
Yeah. I think you're going to see a nice board weight hit here from Ryan Mayville and a very important team shot. For Team Mulima, for Kivo, that rock curled a little more than they expected, and I think as we talked about Rob Matheson's ice being very release sensitive, I think maybe that rock just wasn't a duplicate release as his first one.
That's a good point.
And it's we're being very nitpicky here.
Yes.
But that's just solely because we want these teams to learn as much as possible. And with as few events as we have this year, and knock on wood, hopefully we have more.
Yeah.
You want to learn as much as possible, especially because there's no U18 national.
Mateo was on it. Now he's off. You like to see that with the sweepers. It's got to move.
This looks like a great shot.
Just got to make sure you follow through on that back stone.
Is it enough weight for two?
Really got to go.
And he makes it for one. And very delicate shot there.
A really tricky spot, Sam.
Yeah.
So if you're Team Mayville, you're taking that point to the board and you're happy with it. To be up 2 at any point in the game is always a good position to be in. And I think it was also good that Team Kivo forced a really high quality shot out of their skipper, Ryan. So it's good to see both the pressure being put on by both teams. And it's noticeable.
Absolutely. A big shot by Ryan Mayville, and it seems like he's really making that 8 stone well.
Yes, that's a good point, Sam.
And though this game is close, I think that is the difference, is that he's made that last shot. That was a pressure shot. Yes, Kivo's guard overcurled by a half a foot, but to make that shot early on in the season is great. And for Team Mulima, your goal here, obviously, put up those corner guards and get your deuce and tie the game. This is the 6th end, the all-important 6th end that we've been talking about.
Yes.
Very important to score.
So do you think the plan for Team Mayville this end is to score as well? Or just Mulima really looking for that multiple score here?
If you're Team Mayville, your goal here is to force or blank.
Okay.
Or steal.
Oh, okay. Okay. It looks like all of a sudden All of a sudden, everyone around me vacated. I am alone in the commentary booth. I swear I don't smell. I just 2 timeouts on sheets 2 and 4, and bada bing, bada boom, you're left there alone. But that's okay. So it'll be interesting to see what our convener Sam makes of this situation. I don't really know what happened, but it's good to see that the convener as well as both coaches are out there to make sure that everyone's doing all right. So while we have this opportunity, let's do a sheet-by-sheet update. See? No Sam. Just me. So right now we have, on sheet 1, Team Stratton is leading Team Dobson 5 points to 1, with Team Dobson having Hammer in the 6th end. Team Hastings scored a big 3 points in the 5th end to take the lead 4-3 over Team Murray, playing the 6th end. Murray has Hammer. And on sheet 5, we have Jones leading Stockton 4-3, but notably Stockton stole 2 in the 4th end. So it'll be interesting to see how those games progress. We will keep you up to date. And it looks like we're back to the action here. We're seeing the lead of Team Mulima, which is Griffin Bauer. Throwing a corner guard. So, just one moment. So it looks like they see Griffin here throwing third stone of this end, trying to make that hit on the stone. Top four. Great hit there. A roll a little too far, but it got out to the corner, and I think Team Mulima's trying to bring the play out to the corners, which is why I don't mind that roll out that far. Here, trying to throw that come around in the zone 1 guard. Looking pretty close. It's just wonder if it's going to stop in front of the T line. No. Looks like it's settling up back for it. Not in a bad spot for Team Mayville. It's mostly buried. The guard is a little long though, so that does give room for Team Kibo to come around, make a play, a little tap, and try to lie 2 in the 6th end. And that 6th end is just oh so important. If you're scoring here and then scoring, if you're scoring here and you force Team Mayville to score in 7, you're gonna have hammer in that last end, which is a good thing to have. Just squeaked by the guard there. And it looks like it's going to stick around in the house. So it looks like Team Mayville has decided on the right-hander's out-turn draw around that center line guard. It looks like it's running a little bit heavy on what we've been calling the straighter side of the ice. So it'll just be interesting to see where this ends up. Seems to be cutting in there now. Liam's doing everything he can to bring that rock closer to the center behind that center line guard. Looks like we're having a hit on that recently thrown blue stone, pardon me. And it looks like they're trying to get it to curl up for them. And fortunately enough for Team Mulima, that although it kind of jammed on the side of that Yellowstone, they are still sitting 2. It's really interesting to see how much ice Team Mayville is taking on this side of the ice. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's something to do with the release, or maybe they're seeing the side curl a little bit more than we have. And it looks like they're getting Mateo on that rock, trying to finish it in there, and hogline in, it really is, it's swooping. I don't think they'll be able to get it to the center line, but it is moving in there quite nice. So it looks like you're going to see Team Mulima call their Vice Jack Reagan to make this hit on this stone thrown by Team Mayville. And I have a feeling... Oh! Pardon me. That was a mistake by Jacob Clark. And I think once you see this hit made... even if they roll out or nose, I have a feeling Mayville might hit something. But I could be wrong, and if I am, it wouldn't be the first nor last time. So. And it looks like they're going to make me eat my words. And I think this is a reoccurring pattern that we've seen with some U18 teams. We've seen this sort of pattern of getting out of sticky situations with aggressive play. And I don't mind it as long as Ryan's feeling comfortable with this freeze to the corner. But at the end of the day, I think the curling textbook says we need to remove some of that granite. Because if you're looking at the house right now, yellow's sitting 3. They don't look harmful, to be blunt, because they're spread out to the wings, biting the 12-foot everywhere. But I think it's something that Team Mayville needs to be cautious of, because those points could end up on the scoreboard. But if the freeze is executed here by Ryan, it could also negate them. So it's a risky shot. It's a little bit aggressive, but it's nothing new that we haven't seen from these talented U18 curlers. Looks like they have Liam trying to finish it over for line. It seems to be coming in real nice. Just need to make sure it has the legs, and blue is shot in front of a couple of those yellow stones. So it looks like you're gonna see Kibo put the broom down on that rock and try to remove it. And I think this could be one of those critical shots of the match where if this shot is executed properly, you're gonna see a 4-point swing potentially. And yes, Mayville is leading by 2 points, but in a game of ones and 1-2, I think a multiple score, it's especially a multiple score of more than 2, could be huge just momentum-wise. And I think Kibo and his team noticed that. So have the intern hit being thrown by Kibo here. Jake Clark is on the brush, trying to hold it straight. We're gonna have to see what happens here, folks. And it looks like, wow. I don't think anyone would have predicted that outcome. But it looks like yellow is shot too. So I think Team Mayville needs to kind of look at the situation and maybe consider taking some medicine here. Maybe hitting that back stone, saying, know what, Team Mulima, you had us on the run this end, and we're okay to give you 2 because potentially we could have given a lot more. But something that Ryan, we've seen time and time again, he wants to draw his way out of problems. this rock all of a sudden just going sideways, but it's hooking back. Like, oh my, like, I tell you, these past 2 shots have been a roller coaster on sheet 2.
I'm just cutting in right when this is happening. You couldn't throw that rock 100 more times and make it do what it just did.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair observation, Sam.
Yeah.
I've never seen a shot called where you throw one handle, you get the other handle halfway down the sheet, and it ends up in a really good spot compared to where you wanted it to be. But it puts the pressure on Kibo. This piece of ice is not an easy shot to make here. The 3 is definitely in play. I think it's I see the call for what I believe to be bumper. So it'll be really interesting to see what the situation is right now. Yeah, so last stone here by Kibo in the all-important 6th end. An opportunity for a 3 here. And board weight was the call. It looks close. Jake is doing everything he can to keep that straight. Oh. And a steal of 1 by Team Mayville in the 6th end. Yeah. We're just going to take a quick 30-second break from the broadcast. And the magic of broadcasting is that 30 seconds is a lot less time on our end as it is on yours. And I know how much you guys missed my voice, so I'm back for you. So here we are, throwing in the 7th end, and Team Mayville is up on Team Mulima, 5 points to 2. Team Mulima having hammer in the 7th end. And just like clockwork, Liam is back to sweeping his brains out to make sure that rock gets over and gets where Chris is tapping his broom. Great sweep by Liam, a great team shot right there. Comment and contrasting to our last draw, all 4 sheets in play right now have done a really good job at keeping that pace of play up to where we would like it to be. So that means we all got to see 8 ends of curling if need be. So that is an excellent piece of news for all games on the ice right now. it's always good to see a full 8 ends being played. It's just what you signed up for, so that's what you get. Looking at Team Mulima, we're seeing Griffin throw that zone 3 guard as a corner, and in the 7th end, I would expect to see Team Mulima to be a little bit more aggressive, see them push the envelope a little bit more, really looking to score here. I think if I'm Team Mulima, any point or points I can get on the board this end is an accomplishment, and knowing how easy it is to score points on this surface, as proven by every sheet on the ice, it's just a 3 spot away from being tied here, folks. So I think that's something to keep in mind. And a great come around by Mateo on his 2nd rock. Throw that guard, and then the 2nd stone, half in the 8-foot, close to the center line. That's the kind of setup you like to see from a lead. And I think sometimes the leads are the unsung heroes of the groups, just as the seconds. I know everyone says it, maybe, or maybe they don't, who knows, but I think a good setup is what every team needs to start every end.
Absolutely. I think we talked about this in past broadcasts, but every position, with the 5-rock rule, every position is so very important.
Yes.
Of setting up an end. And this rock, hitting the brakes in time, it's not shot, but Team Mulima, you're not looking to be shot stone right now. You're looking for rocks in play, burying these Yellowstones behind the corner, and give Kibo another shot for 3, like he just had. And he's going to be telling his team, yes, that shot didn't go the way I wanted it to, but if you give me that shot again, I'm going to make it.
What about the bad one?
You have to, and I think that's the great thing about this sport is, as a team, that end didn't produce the result they were looking for, but they also understand that there's 2 more ends to play, and there's only 3 points difference between those teams. And if Team Kibo can convert their hammer here with 2 points, it's only a 1-point game. So yes, there's a lot of conditional and if-then, but at the same time, that just speaks to the quality of these players, is that no one is ever down and out, and that's just, it just shows what good athletes and what good curling we're privileged to watch.
Yeah. Team Mayville taking an aggressive strategy here in the 7th end, and being up 3, and I like it. They've executed it.
I think so, Sam, and I think those 3 Team Mayville rocks have some magnetic pull to that center line. We've seen a setup like this before. I believe it was in the what end was that? There was an end where that happened, and I think the 4th.
It was
end.
early. It was early in the game, and for Team Mulima, unfortunate that their corner guard kind of was
lost
out
there. Yeah.
But if I'm Kibo in the future, if I'm rewatching this game and I'm Team Kibo in the future, I'd be playing that peel the other way.
I think that's a great point, Sam. And I think just in terms of youth curlers out there, I would argue that 80 to 90% of the shots called are the right shots.
Yes.
And I think just understanding where that rock you're trying to hit is in relation to where everything else in play is something that is so critical. And choosing what handle that you throw can really dictate the risk and outcome of the shot. It can increase the degree of difficulty just depending on the handle you choose.
I think it just goes to show you how close the parity is of all 8 teams here. Mm-hmm. Even though Team Mulima is 3-0 and Team Mayville is 0-3, it shows you that, look at Team Mayville up 3 in the 7th end.
Yeah.
It just shows you how close all 8 teams are here. And it is the first event, and that's what you expect to see. Mm-hmm. We've also talked about the percentage of makes after misses.
Yes, that's another good point, Sam.
Team Mulima, this is a really big shot in the game, because you just got a miss by Team Mayville, which has not happened a lot in this game.
No, Team Mayville has been very sharp.
Yeah, so you really need to focus on getting around the center guard and sitting shot rock and really capitalizing on the miss when you do get it.
Mm-hmm. Well, so Sam, I just find it interesting. So bear with me here. So Kivo decided to throw the peel on the first stone. Then you get a miss from Team Mayville on the stone that just occurred. Would you not then think, okay, I have another chance to clear the center? Do you like the peel, or do you like that come around freeze?
I like when he called the peel, and we discussed that I would have rather thrown the other handle.
Yeah.
And I like that he called the peel on that shot because he knew he was in trouble. Even though you're down 3, he knew he was in trouble.
But what about that shot?
That shot, he wasn't as much in trouble.
In trouble, okay.
Right? If you sink that back forward like they called, your shot rock behind 2 center guards.
Okay.
And pressure's back on Team Mayville. And for Chris here, yes, it's an open hit, but it's very important to hit and stick, sit those 2, and even make the double if hit properly. And that's a great shot.
Yeah, hats off to Chris this game and team, because all of Chris's shots, especially the ones that are a little bit of those end changers, they're executed by the sweeper and the line caller just as much as the thrower. So it's just great to see that level and quality of play.
Absolutely. Some teams, they look at their record and it's 0-3. They would just kind of shrug this last game off.
Exactly.
And they're really playing with a chip on their shoulder to get that one win beside them before they play in the consolation tomorrow. So a big shot for Team Mulima. They're in the opposite end of the spectrum. They wanted to stay undefeated, of course, and this game isn't over, but they wanted to keep that polished record going into the championship round. Obviously, 2 ends left to play, and a big shot here for Jacob to draw around the center guard, and a big sweep by Griffin that we've probably said multiple times.
Yeah, I tell you, Sam, some of these athletes just put everything they have into that, and that shot is not made to that quality if not with the help of Griffin and the line calling of Kibo.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you, and I think we'll give the tallest curler award to Griffin. Because at his age already being, I'm 5'11", and I'm looking up at him, so.
I think the broadcast team will be able to get a field report on the height. On the height of Griffin Bowers. But yeah, I feel confident giving that award to him as well, Sam. I like it.
Yeah, I like the miss here by Team Mayville. Not that I like the miss, but I like the tolerance that they decided to play.
Yeah, I think the tolerance of that shot was definitely executed well enough that they still have angles in on that yellow rock.
Really shrinks Team Mulima's scoring zone, as we've talked about multiple times. And for Team Mulima, definitely a team decision, because that straighter side with weight is going to be tough to get that hit and roll under. So do you play back line? You don't have to kill it.
No, I think you just have
make
to
sure
move
you
it.
get under that center. You don't need to be sitting 1-2 right now. So just make sure you're hiding the yellows as best as possible.
No, I completely agree with that, Sam. And I think, again, something that if I was at this stage of my curling development, something that my coaches were constantly telling me was the rocks aren't counted until all 16 are thrown. And I think this point in the end, that's something that Team Mulima needs to keep in mind. They're sitting 1 right now, and this rock is looking good. Were they calling the freeze onto the yellow?
I think they called the freeze.
The freeze.
And it looks like they're getting
a little bit of a chap.
A chap and roll, which, as we discussed,
is good.
Is great. And we talked about that control zone a lot this game, and that yellow isn't exactly where you want to control. Yes, you're not sitting 2 right now, but you don't need to be sitting 2 right now. They would have liked a little bit more curl there.
Yeah.
To chap a little bit harder, maybe. But it does the job. Yes, Team Mayville can make a really thin double here, but there's only about a rock width apart, maybe not even a full rock. So it's a very thin double.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're up 3, you just have to really focus on making sure one of those yellows.
Sam, can you
Go.
humor me for a minute?
Sure.
Okay. So if I am in Team Mayville's position right now, I see their shot 1. Also, I look at the gap between those rocks and I think, okay, they have the control zone. Are you opposed to, just a hypothetical shot call here, are you opposed to seeing Team Mayville come down to that yellow stone, kind of bonk bonk, and remove that back yellow, and then sit on top to be frozen to kind of have a blue, yellow, blue rock sandwich? What do you think about that? Because
Answering your question right after we see the result of this.
Okay.
And that you just got kind of hung up on that straighter side.
Yeah.
And blue does still sit second stone in the back one. So Team Mulima kind of has to decide now, how aggressive do we want to be? Do we draw that curly side right to the edge of our yellow stone and make Ryan Mayville throw the same shot, which is very difficult?
Yep.
Or do we hit and stick, and Team Mayville has to decide on whether they want to concede 3 and make the hit and stick, or try and make that thin double again.
But what do you think about maybe a different shot call on that one for Team Mayville? Do you like the shot they called, or do you see that kind of double tap and sit there? Or?
I think the double tap and sit there is they're both risky, obviously.
Yes.
Because we've seen the outcome now.
Yeah, we're playing 100% behind the class, but
I think in a perfect world you'd play that just off nose and keeping your blue in that control zone that we talk about.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting to see what the team decides, and let's just kind of watch and see what happens.
Yeah. It's gradual. If you're light, that's fine. A 2's okay.
Just an update for those following along at home, looking at other sheet score lines as well. Looking at sheet 1, we have a final, our first final of this draw. We see Team Stratton scoring 2 with hammer in the 7th end, and that concludes that game for Team Stratton, pulling ahead with the victory, 7-2 as the final score there. So Sam and I were just discussing, and I think we're gonna call him Mr. Absolutely. We've discussed that is his word of the tournament, so I'm absolutely okay with that being the case. Looking at the setup we have right now, it's favoring Team Mulima. They're throwing that really tight guard on their 2 yellow stones, and we see Chris go up there and tap a zone 3 guard directly beside it. But the skipper of Team Mayville, Ryan sees the freeze on that one. And and I saw that kind of look back to the coach, and the coach was just sitting there, and they're like, wow, I wish maybe he was calling a timeout perhaps. But I don't mind the 2 shot choices that they have. What do you think about them, Sam?
I really I know we can't hear what they're saying, but maybe the people back home can. I'd really like to see what they're thinking. There is one more timeout that they have.
Yeah, their coach does have one more timeout.
And there
Oh,
it
and
goes.
they call.
So
Oh, and they called it. They.
hopefully one of the mics pick up this timeout, and it'll be interesting to see what the coaches say.
Yeah.
I like this, and then if you're off, you come in. Yeah, you want to be like it. Yeah. And then you there. Just light. Just over is even good.
So I like that Team Mayville have decided on this draw. Really try to, as we said, choke that scoring area down for Team Mulima. And for Mateo, this looks like it's going to be a big sweep.
Yeah, it seems to be curling a bit, but Mateo has been done a good job in holding these rocks.
Yeah. I just think that's his first draw in a little bit.
Very true.
And we haven't been that wide over there yet. And even Kibo playing the hit, obviously he has to hit because that blue stone is second shot.
Mm-hmm.
So a big shot for 3 to tie the game going into the 8th end. And like I said earlier this end, if I'm Kibo, I'm telling my team, if you give me a shot for 3,
yeah.
I'm going to make it. Because yes, it didn't go my way last end. So let's really take a deep breath here if I'm Kibo, which he is, and make this shot. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, I really like to see him taking his time in his pre-shot routine, and this shot is a different circumstance than the one we saw previously, so we'll get to see what happens.
Looks like it's going to be a big... Oh, no. Clean is always a good call.
We like to hear clean on these shots.
And looks like brooms up, hands up, and we have a tie game going into the 8th end.
Love to see that, especially
for viewers, maybe not for some parents, but for viewers, for the coaches, we all like to see close games because that's where you learn the most.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good to see. So for Team Mulima, Kibo, you're going to see probably a tight center guard, if not a high center guard.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what Ryan Mayville decides to call, whether he wants to draw around the center guard that they throw, or draw to the wing or play the tick. So looks like maybe a little bit of a team meeting before they throw, or maybe they forgot that they have to throw first.
It'd be like that sometimes. It'd just be like that.
After a long game, I don't blame them whatsoever. It looks like that Kibo is telling Ryan that, oh yeah, we have to throw first.
Yeah.
And he's asking Griffin what side he wants to play, and it looks like they're going to be throwing that tight center guard.
Just an update across the sheets. We are looking at the sheet 1, as reported before. Sheet 1 is a final win for Stratton, 7-2. Sheet 4, we have a really close game. We have Team Hastings with a lead of 5-4 against Team Murray, playing the 8th end. Team Murray has hammer. And on sheet 5, we have a tied game. Just like the one on our sheet, we have Team Jones against Team Stockton, 4-all, playing the 8th, and Team Jones has that last rock advantage. So these
three very close games in this last men's draw of the round robin.
And each one of these games have direct implications to the championship pool and the consolation pool. And I think...
Big sweep by Chris there, not to cut you off, but that was head down. He's shoulder rolling after that big sweep, and he's happy he got it there. And not to cut you off, but we discussed about how if Team Mulima throws that center guard, where is Team Mayville going to go?
Yeah.
And the draw around is exactly where I would want them to do, and that's exactly what they did, because right out of their playbook.
Yeah, bring the play into the forefoot. I think the Mayville mantra for this end is get there first, get there often, and try to just get that control zone. And I think that Blue Rock is doing that quite well right now. It'll just be interesting to see how the end develops.
And it looks like Griffin's stone kind of got a little bit wider out there, where the path is probably a little bit more fresh.
Yes.
And a great finish, and nothing wrong with two center guards.
Yeah.
When you need a steal in the last end.
No, exactly. And hats off to Griffin for sweeping so well as putting those guards in play when his team needs it the most. This end is pretty important for Team Mulima. I think they're definitely looking for the steal, and it would really help them in the standings. But this is Mateo's second rock coming down right now. Chris is on the broom for this one. I think they're going for line, Sam.
Yeah, and as those two yellow stones kind of warped into the center, we see the blue one do the same thing.
Whoa.
And just getting by, and they're kind of hoping that it hits the brakes.
It's a great shot.
And nothing wrong with... And just to update our viewers, maybe not in our live stream, because this game to go into an extra would mean a blank end, which we're not going to see.
We hope.
But knock on wood. But for 4 and 5, a rule that we have in the Junior Slam series is if there's a tie game after the 8th end, we throw a draw to the button to see who wins the game. Time-wise, because we fit 4 draws in one day, and we also have to clean COVID protocols.
Yes.
and evacuate the building and let the women come on and vice versa. We have to do that to really... we need a winner and a loser, but we also need time efficiency as well.
Well, and it's all about the health and safety of the athletes.
Yeah.
And I think, yes, a draw to the button it's controversial. Some are okay with it. Some would prefer the full extra end. At the end of the day, it's just putting the health and safety of the athletes first. And if a draw to the button is what we have to do to ensure health and safety of our athletes, that's what's going to happen.
Absolutely. And for Team Mulima, they're very happy that we have rocks in play.
Yes.
By the end of Kibo's last shot, they want to be sitting at least one.
And look at this shot just warp in that Liam threw with a little bit of extra help from Chris.
For Team Mayville, really what's been working for them so far this game is controlling that control zone and that top 8 foot, top 12 foot. And Team Mulima knows how important that stone that was just thrown by Liam is.
Yes.
It's in a really good spot, and already they're trying to figure out how can we move it so we can access the button.
Yeah. Sam, if you are in Team Mayville's position right now, and this is the setup you have, is the mindset, let's open it up to make sure we have a clearer last shot, or is the mindset, let's keep it locked down so that it might be a little bit more tricky for Mulima to get in there?
I think it's a team preference. I think what we've seen by Team Mayville so far is as soon as they were in trouble, they've started to peel.
Okay.
But at the start of the ends, they've started aggressive. And you see that in this end too. They're sitting in a good spot. So yes, the safe call would be peeling. But right now you're sitting shot rock. You have the front. You have the control zone controlled.
And for now,
you are playing a little bit with fire, not peeling.
Yeah.
But it seemed to have worked for them so far. So we'll see what happens here. If Team Mulima makes a really nice shot, which obviously that's their goal of Jacob here, is to make a nice draw to the pin here.
Griffin's
then you'll see a peel from Mayville, I assume.
Yeah, Griffin was doing everything he could to hold it straight, and now they're looking for a little bit more of a swoop in there. It's really close, just a little heavy.
I think they got caught up a little bit of that side isn't finishing as hard.
Yeah.
So it's not hitting the brakes quite as much.
Mm-hmm.
I aggressively calling, I wouldn't mind throwing top 12, top 8 here if you're Team Mayville.
Yeah.
I also wouldn't mind a peel. Peeling right now might help Team Mulima.
True.
I'm kind of on the same page as Ryan Mayville. Play this top 12, top 8. Kind of, you're already sitting one. Just kind of defend your point. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Big sweep here by Mateo.
Yeah. He's putting everything he has into getting this rock over that rock line.
Yeah. And we're gonna see probably a slight overcurl. But
I don't hate that, Sam, because it prevents Team Mulima,
the tap,
from using that front yellow stone, or at least using it as easily as they could have before.
Yeah.
So
for Jacob here, obviously your goal is to put this frozen on the button. But if you are gonna miss a tolerance, then put it top 8 like we just said Mayville should do. Then you'll have a tappable stone.
Yep.
It's kind of like a setup shot like we talked about in the 6th end. Or in the 4th end, but
who's counting?
And kind of a similar result as Jacob's last stone is they're getting caught up in that little bit straighter side, a little bit faster side.
Yeah, I think that weight on the other side of the sheet would have been exactly where they'd like it. It just, that straighter side and straighter side is just that little bit of a weight difference.
And if you're Team Mayville, you're committed now.
Yeah.
There's no peeling, there's no bailing. Let's put this top. I wouldn't mind going top 8, top 4. But I don't. The tolerance definitely being a tight guard.
Yeah, I kind of see the maybe top 12. I'm just worried the further you bring that rock in, the more precise it has to be.
Yeah. So we're gonna see Chris here make it one of the most pressured shots of the game so far.
Yeah, this is a huge shot. with a huge impact on this game as we see Liam trying to
down.
bring it over there, bring it into that middle a little bit more.
And a good team shot there.
Yeah.
So now, decision time for Team Mulima. I think you're probably running that yellow one back now.
Yeah, I agree, Sam. I think Mulima needs to try to use some of that stuff they have up front to try to rearrange the angles to make sure that they can try to muster out, or even just as a setup shot to kind of open it up. I think there's a lot of good that could happen if they moved one of those guards.
Yeah, I think like it does curl a lot on that side. You could play the back line, kind of move that blue one out of the way. But I think it's time to throw the run back in. We'll find out soon enough.
So it's been a busy end on sheet 5. Yellow has called both of their timeouts in this end. But this game has major implications. Stockton sitting at 2-1, Jones sitting at 1-2. The winner of this game could be moving on to that championship draw, and the loser, depending on who it is, could be waiting to see the results of other games or just trying to see where the math kind of leaves them. So I think definitely both teams on sheet 5 are putting all they have into it to try to get the result that favors them the most.
And like we've said many times with a lot of teams on the broadcast, we've seen that front end player come in, give their 2 cents of what they think might be the right call, and then back away and let skipper and vice decide on what they're about to throw. With Jacob, this is his last shot. We both agreed that the run back was the call, and I think that's what they're playing.
Yeah. Did you see what kind of weight call they asked for, Sam?
No.
Okay. So, well, we'll get to wait and see.
Yeah. We'll find out with the rest of the viewers. Looks like about normal.
Yeah. It's definitely not one of those softer board weight shots. It should be close here.
Just trying really hard, and you know what? Even though that, if you're at home, you're like, oh my god, now blue's sitting 2, but if this looks way better.
Yes, because that control zone that we've been talking about is opened up now.
Yeah, so they have, yes, those 2 blues are shot 1 and 2, but they're behind the T line, and that's advantage Mulima.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see Ryan ask for, I believe it's a guard, maybe the top 12 shot behind that yellow stone. And I think that's actually a good position for it. You could have a 2-for-1 there, kind of block that draw path, but also make it difficult to advance that yellow stone forward for Team Mulima.
And as we said on Chris's last stone, they're kind of all in. There's no more bail point anymore.
Yeah.
So let's make this good. I don't mind this being top 12, top 8.
If it's good, you might as well make it great.
Make it really good. And you know, Mulima threw a run back for a reason, because they didn't like where that rock was, and now Team Mayville back in the control zone. And Team Mulima back to throwing the run back.
No, that's a great point, Sam. That rock ended up in a pretty decent spot for them. I see Team Mulima gesture, I think it's some sort of off of that blue rock into that pocket.
Yeah, I just think the guard is too much in the way there.
I think if I'm
the viewers can't see that. But.
Yes, I think if I'm Team Mulima, on my first stone, I don't mind kind of maybe playing a run. There we go. Playing a run on that left-hand yellow guard into the pile to kind of open things up. And at the very worst, you get a peel, which isn't a bad scenario.
Yeah, I don't mind playing the double run over just the single run, just because, let's say you miss a little wide or a little narrow, you're going to make that double peel, and then all of a sudden Team Mayville has to make a really good guard.
So it looks, do you think is it a double peel or a double raise?
It looks like they're throwing the double, with that broom it looks like they're just playing the double peel, not the double run.
Okay.
Now, maybe they're playing, we can't hear them, but maybe they're playing the board weight tap.
Yeah.
Double tap to the button. That very well could be the call on the straight side. So, to state the obvious, a big shot here for Kibo.
Yeah, I think it is a big shot. But I think if you look at how the game has progressed, if you asked Kibo of having a tied game playing the last end, not hammer, I think he'd be okay with that. And it's really close, just needs to come up a smidge here.
I like the weight. It looks like they were playing that double tap. And they do open up that left side of the sheet.
That yellow guard did roll to a spot. I think they're still able to access enough of that blue for that in-off that they were gesturing previously, but
yeah, so if I'm Team Mulima and we assume Ryan Mayville is going to make this guard, which you always do when you're thinking about strategy, you have to look at your shots. So I think the main shot you're going to have once Ryan Mayville makes this center guard is that angle run into the button on the shot that is on the wide right stone, the wide right yellow stone.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens after this stone stops. Big shot for Ryan Mayville too to block up this left side.
Yeah. And the leave here is really what they're concerned about. What are they going to leave Kibo to throw on his last stone? And I think the guard is the right call here. Mateo's doing a great job at trying to hold the line. Maybe an audible, trying to wick off if there's enough legs on that.
And what we've seen all game, Mateo head down sweeping kind of the whole way.
Yeah.
And timeout for Team Mulima. And as we found out in the last timeout, we're not going to be able to hear exactly what everyone says. But it looks like the triple is there. And you don't even need, the Blues don't even need to exit the rings.
So yeah, I think it's good that Team Mulima is using their second timeout here. This shot is for the game.
Yeah.
And I think they've got to get one in there into that button area to make sure that they score. So
Absolutely. I think obviously this is a big shot, but with Team Mayville's guard kind of over curling on them, now Team Mulima has that triple to sit shot stone after this, and I think you do need to throw that control up weight
yeah,
to make sure those three Blues are kind of getting out of the forefoot, so you are sitting shot. But it looks like, to me, it's there.
Yeah. Well,
and it looks easier than that angle run that I was talking about before.
Yeah, and I think one thing these athletes have shown us over the almost full days of curling is that they're not afraid of throwing the big shots, and they can make the big shots. And I think we're gonna be in for a treat to see what shot they call and how they execute. And all of a sudden, we just have a flurry of finals popping up for us on sheet 4, we have Murray, who took 2 in the 8th to beat Team Hastings 6-5, and Team Jones took 1 in the 8th end to win 5-4. It looks like they see that in-off, Sam, that they were gesturing before Kibo's first shot, and where those guards are positioned, there is a port there to come off of and into.
Interesting.
What do you think about this shot?
All 3 shots are tough.
That's an understatement.
And I'm just going to state the obvious that all 3 shots are tough. They're looking at the angle raise that I mentioned before.
Yep.
It looks like they've stopped looking at the triple, which means that guard by Ryan Mayville was good enough that the triple isn't there.
Okay, yeah.
So it looks like they decided that the angle run is the call. It looks like they're not whipping it. It looks like they're throwing board to probably control weight.
Mm-hmm.
And just slicing, that's a great angle, just slicing that yellow about right into the button.
Yeah. So, this is a big shot by Team Kibo right now.
So it's nice to see that Kibo, even in either a shot to force Ryan Mayville to throw his last, or a shot in the 3rd end, he has the same routine, big deep breath, and just simple the game down and just throw it to the broom.
Yeah. I think there's a lot that could go right with this shot, considering how much is in the house. So
this will be a fun one.
It will be.
Whoa. Yep.
That was a super attempt by Kibo, Mulima, and team. Halfway down the ice, everyone in the clubhouse thought it was made, and I thought the same thing myself. Definitely not an easy shot out there.
By everyone, it's the 2 commentators and the 4 coaches. but everyone at home was clinching their breath and hoping that was made. And what an attempt! It just overcurled on them by
a fraction.
We're talking centimeters.
Yeah.
Right. So a great weight call. I love the weight that they threw there. And for Team Mulima, they were, running. They were down the whole game, and just the fight to bring it to the, you threw your skippers last and almost made a great shot for Team Mayville to have. Congratulations to Team Mayville for getting their first win of the weekend. And like we said throughout the game, that just shows the parity of these 8 men's teams and 8 women's teams.
Yeah.
That how close these teams are, and I think that the games are only going to get better.
I completely agree, Sam. I think the performance and execution by both teams, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Everybody left all they had on the ice, sweeping, throwing, line calling, and more. And I just feel so privileged I'm able to watch such good quality of curling with you.
Absolutely. A fun game, and we'll have the last women's round robin draw coming to you at 6:50 p.m. So we'll see you in 40 minutes.
Ciao.